So people interested in joining the Army want to know what's the minimum and maximum that I can do. So they have different contract lengths. They have contract lengths from 2 years all the way up to 6 years. But the important thing to note is that regardless of which one you end up choosing, you're still obligated to at least 8 years total in the Army. So that doesn't necessarily have to be active duty, reserve, National Guard really. So what that means is, let's say the common contract is 4 years, which is pretty common. So you do 4 years on active duty, reserve, National Guard, whatever you choose to do. The other 4 years to meet that 8-year requirement is going to be done on what's called inactive reserve. The inactive reserve is just another element that can pull people back into the Army if a conflict happens and they need more people. But even if there's not a conflict, sometimes you might get pulled back to do some kind of 1-day or half-day class, but they do pay you for that. So be aware, if you do a 4-year contract, 2-year contract, whatever, you're still totally obligated to an 8-year total kind of contract. So going back to those contract lengths, 2 years is kind of usually the minimum one. Sometimes that's very difficult to get, but it still ends up being more than 2 years because it's 2 years after AIT. So you do basic training, AIT, and then the 2 years starts. A lot of people do the 4-year contract. 5 and 6 year contracts are usually only available for certain MOSs, things like maybe Special Forces or other MOSs where they invest a lot of training in you and they want you to, be dedicated to a little bit more time. So those are kind of the contract lengths. Some people want to know, how long can I stay in the military or in the Army? People want to stay in for a long time. Typically people get out of the Army between 20 and 30 years, but there are some cases where people can go on to like 40 years, right? 30 years, whatever the case might be. But the main thing to note is there's an age requirement for max before they're going to force you to retire, and that is the age of 62. If you get to the age of 62, regardless of if you have 25 years or whatever, they're going to force you to retire. In some cases that age limit is 68. That's like medical and chaplain. So there you go, there's some of the limits.